Am I the asshole for moving to a hotel because my wife's family insisted I sleep on the couch? My wife and I got married last summer. Her family lives across the country from us, so up until this point, I had never actually visited. I had met them a handful of times, but we've always gotten along fine. They invited us to come visit and stay with them for a few days, and we took them up on the offer. We flew in yesterday. Everything went well. Her dad and I watched football. Well, that's fun to do. While she caught up with her mom and her sister. And then we finally had a nice dinner. But things went south at the end of the night when it was made clear that they didn't want me sharing a bed with my wife while in their home, and that they expected me to sleep on the couch. By the way, I had a handful of comments on this, but she won't let me do it. This is her show and I gotta behave. I honestly thought they were joking at first, but they insisted we sleep separately. I had a problem with the implication that I shouldn't be allowed to sleep next to my wife. And also, I have a bad back and the couch did not look at least bit comfortable. They didn't have a guest room. After arguing back and forth for a bit, I decided to leave and book a hotel. I told my wife she didn't have to come with me. She chose to stay, and I said I'll come back the next day. I went off to the Marriott about 10 miles away and got a good night's sleep, trying not to let the whole situation bother me.
Hell yeah.
This morning, I called my wife asking when I should come by. She told me my parents want me to apologize for leaving the way that I did. I told her that I am willing to apologize to keep the peace, but they need to acknowledge that it wasn't appropriate to insist that I can't share a bed with my own wife. She said she'd talk to them and then call me back.
Okay.
About 10 minutes later, I hear back from her. She tells me that not only will they not apologize for it, they are now insisting that I need to come back and stay on the couch for the rest of our visit. If I don't agree to this, I'm not welcome back in the house. I'm pretty livid at this point. I told her that there is absolutely no chance that I will do that, and I am no longer willing to offer any sort of apology. This is a great negotiation. My wife's sisters are now bothering me, saying this is just the way their parents are, that my wife is very upset and I need to just give in and stay on the couch for the rest of the trip before it turns into something sort of a family feud. From my perspective, I didn't care what they think, and I'm willing to treat the rest of the trip as a solo vacation. Go sightseeing, meet my wife back at the airport at the end of the week. Am I the asshole?
Here is the story times of when I was a competitive cheerleader. I was a competitive cheerleader from 7th grade until like my junior year of high school. For some reason, I treated cheerleading as if I was going to the fucking Olympics. Like, I was that intense. I was on a senior level 3 team, bitch. It was like, Livy, relax. But the way I acted, and I think it's just because I'm such a naturally competitive person, but the way I acted, like, you would have thought that I was getting ready for the fucking Olympics anytime I went to, like, Dallas. You know what? And let's talk about NCAA Dallas. The first year I went, I was like, I am convinced we are getting, like, I'm gonna win. Why the fuck would I not win Dallas? And people on my team were like, Livy, I would lower those hopes, babe. Like, we're probably not even gonna get like top 3. And I'm like, you guys are so fucking negative. Like, we're winning Dallas. We got 8th place. The prep to Dallas was like insane. I was sending my like 3 best friends from my cheer team like Pinterest quotes every morning to like get us through the day. Like, I don't know what the fuck, but I was like, I'm going to Dallas and I'm going to win. Like, you bitches might lose, but like, I'm winning. I was fucking crushed when I lost Dallas. Also, the practices leading up to Dallas, I feel like we called it Hell Week, or I'm literally imagining that. They were so fucking intense, and like, once again, it's like senior level 3 team, babe. Like, it's honestly not even just Dallas practice, but like all practices were so fucking intense. And like, we'd be throwing up at practice. Like, I look back now, I'm like, why were we going so hard on like a Wednesday afternoon? I will never forget when we had a competition. I forget where we were going, but our pyramid wasn't hitting, so we had to come in for like a Friday practice, and we were all in like horrible fucking mood. And my coach was like screaming at us to a different degree, because like that was just a thing that we just low-key got abused the whole time and like got screamed at. But I will literally never forget that specific practice, because like the pyramid wasn't hitting. Guess what? The extra practice, the pyramid still wasn't fucking hitting. But my second time at Dallas was like when I actually felt heartbreak for the first time. Like, I'm not even being dramatic. I had like gone up a level, so I was on a team that won Dallas last year. So we were going in like the reigning champs, like, oh, they're gonna win again, you know what I mean? So like, I cheered with all of my best friends, like a whole friend group from my hometown. We all cheered together. So we were like extra fucking brutal to each other. Like, say one of their stunts drops, I'd be like, what the fuck, you dumb bitch? Like, you can't get a stunt in the fucking air. What is your problem? No, like, I'm not kidding. Like, that's actually how we spoke to each other. Like, we were bitches. But I feel like my friends and I thought we could speak that way to each other, or like even people on the team that we could speak that way to each other, because like our coaches were fucking brutal, the things they would say to us. Like screaming so loud if a stunt, like it just insane things. But I just feel like we thought we could say those things to each other because of the way our coaches would act. Definitely not a healthy environment looking back, but so addicting. Like you want to give it your all and you want to win Dallas. So second year going into Dallas, we're favored to win. Everyone's like, oh my God, they're coming back. They're getting, like in our music, it was like back to back. It's like, mind you, we all had fat fucking egos going into Dallas, like even me. And I didn't win last year, but like I was like, we're gonna win. But we were like expected to win. So day one, Dallas. I was in the center stunt group. Of course I was, babe. And we had a bobble, like severe bobble, almost a fall basically. Let me say, amazing save, but like it was like whatever. It's Dallas, like you can't fuck up at Dallas. I got off stage after that bobble, and you would have thought like someone killed my whole family the way I was acting. Like bawling my eyes out, so mad, like so disappointed in myself, and like just we were all screaming at each other too. Like we were like, babe, it was a bobble and we hit like a perfect routine after that, but it's like, it's Dallas, you can't fuck up at Dallas. Later that night, we find out we're in first place with that fat ass bobble. I'm like, deductions and all, like I'm getting my jacket, like we're winning Dallas. We performed day two, we hit a flawless routine. Did I stutter? Flawless, why did I stutter? Flawless routine, it's gorgeous. We run off stage, we're like crying. Everyone's like, you just won Dallas, like you guys won. I'm like, I'm an NCAA champion. No, awards come. And they're like, oh, no, first place and second place separated by 0.08. 0.0 fucking 8. Like second place, they call my team. That truly broke my heart. But like the way we all acted too, like we got off stage and we were all like, fuck you. And we're like bawling our eyes out, like losing our minds. Like we have to change the music, like back to back. We're not back to back. I just remember like crying in my friend's dad's arms because I don't have a father. My mom being like, okay, what the fuck? Because if there was one thing, my mom was not a cheer mom. She like thought everything was really weird. She like, Liv, this is not the Olympics. Like relax, like fucking relax. When we lost Dallas, she's like, well, like what do you want to do about it? Like I'd be on stage performing and every time I would look at my mom in the audience, she would look like this. She did not give a single fuck about cheer. She was like, this is a lot, like, because we had to travel every weekend. I will have to do a whole separate story time of my mom being a cheer mom. Like, not really. It's too funny. That was the story times of me being a competitive cheerleader.
Am I the asshole for pretending not to recognize my parents when they tried to reconnect? I was raised mostly by my uncle and aunt. My older sister developed a serious illness when I was 6, and my parents decided that they couldn't care for both of us, I guess. So they kind of unceremoniously dumped me at my grandparents, and my uncle took me in. Like, didn't even explain to me what was going on. Just, you're going to go visit Gran for a while, and never picked me back up. My grandparents and uncle explained it later, and they were pretty livid at my parents. I've seen my parents maybe 5 times since then, and not at all for the last 9 years. I decided to stop having contact with them when I was 12, and since I was the only one reaching out, all communication broke down. It turned out okay. I love my aunt and uncle, and it turns out they can't have kids, so they've always said I'm their miracle kid. I was just misrouted by the stork at first. I was formally adopted by them when I turned 18. I wish it had been earlier, but there were some red tape things that would have made that really expensive and difficult. I'm 21 now. My sister passed away between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I made a trip back from school for the funeral, but I stayed in the back and left before my bio parents could talk to me. They called my uncle and tried to talk to me, but I said I didn't want to, so he told them that I wasn't available at the moment. They finally caught up to me over Christmas when I went to midnight mass with my gran and approached me and tried to give me a hug. I did recognize them, but I pretended not to and just backed off and said, sorry, do I know you? They said, we're your parents. And I said, my parents are at home, and went and sat down with my gran. They sat behind us and I could just feel the stare. And on the way out, they were like, you really don't recognize us? And I said, Oh, are you my dad's brother? I think I remember you from when I was little. My grand thinks they deserve it.
Yes.
Trying to come back to my life like nothing happened. But they wrote me a long letter about how hurt they are and how I should understand that they were trying to do the right thing and how they will always be my parents and I can't change that. Other family members think I was too harsh as they're grieving, but I don't think they should get a pass just because they remembered me now that my sister is gone.
Entitled sister-in-law stole our baby name. Now she regrets it. To cut to the chase, my wife and I spent 4 years trying to get pregnant before the wrong side of 35. We are currently 33 respectively now and are blessed with a wonderful infant son. My wife has a younger half-sister that she has been LC with for some time. The woman is entitled and toxic, and also her mother's golden child. We've refused to let her or my mill in the house since they both blatantly tried to make off with my wife's jewelry box a couple of years ago. The box contained a lot of valuable jewelry inherited from my wife's grandmother. Said jewelry is now in a safety deposit box as per my suggestion. My wife and I had nearly given up trying to conceive when it suddenly happened. And we were ecstatic. After we found out we were having a boy, we started looking into names. I ended up suggesting the name of my Scottish grandfather, and my wife loved it. So that's the name we settled on. But we made the mistake of posting about it on social media. Well, no surprise to the stereotype in this mess, my Sil was pregnant too. And was months further along than my wife and also having a boy. She decided to claim my grandfather's name for her own son. And not just the first name, but the middle name too. We called her pissed over what she was doing, and she smugly told us there's nothing we can do about it. Which she was sorta right. There was nothing we could do about it legally as it's still not a crime to steal planned baby names. We realized that drama was exactly what my sister-in-law wanted. And she thought that by taking the name for herself, we'd not be able to use it. I laughed and told her that while what she did was dirty and underhanded, we would keep our chosen name. And she could just deal with it whether she decides to go through with copying us or not. Well, my sister-in-law's baby daddy called me and said I was an unreasonable dick for still wanting to use the name after sister-in-law claimed it. I said she claimed nothing. And since we couldn't own the name, then neither could they. Before he ended the call he threatened me by saying I'd be sorry if we didn't change the name. Then he hung up before I could respond. Months later Sil has a healthy baby boy and names him my grandfather's name. We did not show up for the birth. Both because of the pandemic, and because we simply didn't care to be there. Sil called us wanting congratulations. But we told her we simply didn't care. And that if she was still insisting we change our baby's name, then she'd be in for some big disappointment because we were not. Sil demanded I put my wife on the phone. But it was already on speaker and my wife spoke up and said she agrees with me entirely. We weren't changing the name. Sil hung up on us, but soon started sending emails with text walls of names. Even suggesting similar ones. I responded back that the name was from my grandfather, and that's why we were not changing it. She shut up and we didn't hear from her again till after our own son was born. 2 months later we were blessed with our son. He came out perfect, and we named him just as we'd intended. Well, no surprise my Sil called us a few days after the birth to scream in our ears that we copied her son's name. I pointed out she was the real copycat since she had no familial ties to the name and we did. And anyone who looks at our family trees could see that. Then my wife spoke and said after the attempted theft of her grandmother's jewelry, she no longer considered Sil her sister. And would have nothing to do with her nephew either. For months we were bombarded with messages and emails from my wife's side of the family. Half were on our side after finding out the whole story, the other half were not. And Sil's baby daddy, true to his word, showed up at my door to make me sorry. I'm not sure what his plan was. But I pretty much towered over him. I'm 6 feet 1 inch and well built from regular exercise and 3 trips to the gym a week. He on the other hand was very skinny and about 5 feet 6 inches with a baby face that was badly hidden by a slim beard. I told him my house has cameras, and to get off my property and never come back. He just yelled a few obscenities at me and drove off in his beat-up old car. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law called us from a different number to yell at me for making Sil's baby daddy feel emasculated. I didn't even threaten the man. Just told him to leave and not come back. And if he didn't want to feel emasculated, then he shouldn't have come knocking. Then they tried to bring up the issue of the baby name again and demanded we change our son's name as he's so young. So there's still plenty of time to do it. We held our ground and told them that they were bonkers to still think they were in the right after they copied our choice of name just to try and get one over on us. I said Sil didn't even name her son out of love, but out of spite just to try and stick it to my wife for no good reason. Then my wife called them both out on the way she was treated growing up, how entitled Sil and Mill have always been, and how she was glad to leave them far behind. And she wants nothing from them, and they won't have anything from us. That left Sil sobbing and Mill called me a royal bastard before hanging up the phone. That was NC again for a little while till Sil called us again some time later to bitterly tell us we'd won. She and her baby daddy got in a huge fight and he left. He was apparently very sore that Sil didn't let him even give their son a middle name from his family. And he said he was sick of the bullshit and wanted his son named after him and not some guy he wasn't even related to. Sil finally caved and they got the boy's birth certificate reissued with a completely new name, which cost Sil around $500, or so she claims. Sil then demanded we at least compensate her for the name change, plus another $100 for the emotional damage, as now she's going to have to get used to calling her son by a different name. We laughed and said this would have never happened if she hadn't stolen our baby name to begin with, and we didn't know her anything. Since then we've been NC with Sil and Mill. But my Phil, who's a very nice man and divorced from Mill for obvious reasons, would come by often and loves his grandson. From what he and other relatives told us, the situation between Sil and her baby daddy was pretty tumultuous. But we don't care. Not our monkeys, not our circus.
I am going to be answering your guys' assumptions about me. I asked you bitches on Instagram, like, some assumptions about me, so let's get into it. First one is that I can't keep a relationship. I feel like I have the opposite issue where I keep it too long. Like, I hold on to a relationship when it should have been gone 6 fucking months ago. I've been in 3 relationships. No, I've been in 2. I don't really count the third because he's just like a loser. And those 2 were over 2 years long. And, like, I should have ended it, like, probably like month 6, but I didn't. Next assumption is that I down tequila like it's water. Tequila is my favorite liquor, but honestly guys, I'm not a big drinker whatsoever. I recently, this past year, have actually hated drinking. And it's mainly just, I think it's my meds. My medication is just giving me like the worst hangovers because I never used to like not like drinking or anything like that. But yeah, recently I've just been like really hating drinking. I'll do it on like special occasions or like vacations or stuff like that, but I don't drink that much. Surprises me too, honestly. It's a very big surprise. Next assumption is that I cheated on my ex or I kept hoes during the relationship. I fucking wish I did. I'm weirdly like disgustingly loyal in my relationships. I'm kidding, it's not weird, but I just am very loyal. Next assumption is that I have every man that I talk to wrapped around my finger. In my head, yes. That's actually funny because every time I like talk to them, I'm like, oh, you're wrapped around my little finger, because they'll just do what I want. Like, also, I really don't love that quality about myself. I feel like it should be like a very even thing, but like, yeah. No. I don't know. We have to ask the men. I come off as a total bitch, but I'm actually very nice. I would say so. I think I definitely do have like a resting bitch face, and I probably do come off a little bit mean, but like I actually am a very nice woman. I will never be just like mean to someone randomly for no reason. If I have a reason, I might be a little bit of a cunt, but no, not even if I have a reason, I'm normally pretty nice. Unless you piss me the fuck off. Next assumption is that I love hard. Unfortunately, yeah, like it takes a while for me to like be in love or actually even be interested or like somebody, but once I am, I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna get fucking married. I literally love you, babe, and I love really, really hard. Next assumption is that I don't really like kids. Like, I don't really fuck with kids that heavy. Random children. I'm never gonna be like, oh my god, I love that little kid. He looks so, like, that's never really me. But like my friends and family's babies, more my friends. Like my family's babies, I really don't fuck with them that much either. Like my friends' babies will be like my little world. But yeah, I don't like really fuck with them that heavy. I don't know how else to like phrase that. I was a nanny, so like I do, I can stand them, but like, I've also never been the girl that's like, oh my god, I want babies. That's also another assumption, like if I want kids or not. Let me tell you, I really don't as of right now, but like that could change, but like I don't see it changing. Next one is that I have daddy issues. Actually, I feel like I worked my ass off my entire life to not have daddy issues, and I worked through everything in therapy because I always was like, I don't want daddy issues. This assumption is that I'm a player. Listen, I'll tell you this, I'm not a player, but I'm not gonna settle. Like, I'll talk to these motherfuckers, and I'll talk to a couple of them at a time. I already know off the bat if I like actually interested in them or really not that interested in them, and I will just like, I'm like, oh, like I'm not gonna settle, but like I'll keep you on the roster, you know? So, okay, maybe I am. Ew, I literally just said roster. Okay, maybe I'm just like unintentionally one. Like I don't really think I am, but I literally just said roster, so maybe the fuck I am. Next assumption is that I've dated guys because I'm bored. Bored? No. Horny? Yes. If I'm bored, I do see myself talking to them sometimes, but never like starting a full-blown relationship just out of boredom. I've been a bad bitch since day one. Honestly, low-key, yeah, I've always had this confidence. Even when I feel my most insecure, I still have this confidence. I think my mother just instilled this into me. Next assumption is that I do business. I am very much a businesswoman. You guys can go look at my Instagram. Such a fucking businesswoman. Actually, I'm gonna post a life update later today about an update with that motherfucker, and You like the blush thing? I can't tell. Next assumption is that I'm way softer than what I let on. I am when it comes to like people I really love, like my friends and stuff, and my family. I'm like such a softie and I love them, but I can also be a fucking cunt. Like it's really just the best of both worlds. But yeah, I can definitely be a very, I don't like the word softie though. I definitely have no issue with like being vulnerable. I feel like if you listen to my podcast, you know that I'm pretty vulnerable often on there. Well, I'm definitely giving blush today. Those are just a couple assumptions you guys had about me.
My husband wants me to be a mother to his affair child. I, 29 female, and my husband, 44-year-old male, have been together for 5 years and married for 2. I met him at the church I started going to when I moved cities to start my career. I work for an insurance company and he's a pastor. I know that we have a notable age gap, but he has always been kind to me and made me feel special. A week ago, he came home and told me that we needed to talk. He told me through tears that he had been having an affair with one of our community members and that she had been pregnant with twins. She had gone into labor. She and one of the twins died and the other is still in the NICU. He said we need to step up and that he wants me to turn my office into a nursery and set up a cot in the room so that we can take turns taking care of the child. I became distressed and I told him I wanted some time to think, that I was not sure that I wanted to do this. He told me that I had made a vow to him in marriage and that God had blessed us with a child. That this is our cross to bear and that God will never give us something that we cannot handle. I told him that it seemed like God had given her more than she could handle because she is dead. I know I should not have said that. I was not thinking correctly. I was distressed. He then slapped me in the face and told me that I needed to serve my husband, that God had chosen me as this child's mother and I needed to be his humble servant. I just feel so strange. Yesterday, I cried so hard that I threw up. This woman died, yet I feel bad for myself. I feel so ugly. I wanted children and I was saving for IVF because I am infertile, but now I have a chance at a child and I do not want it. I feel like I'd be robbing the baby's mother's grave. I've prayed to God, but if we're being honest here, I've never felt like anyone was listening. I feel like I have truly seen my husband and he no longer looks kind to me. He looks like his age. He looks very tired. I want to abandon him and the child. I'm only 29. I can start over. I have a remote job. I can take a day off when he goes to the NICU, pack my essentials, and leave. Neither him nor the child deserve this. And although this is my circus, that is not my monkey.
Am I wrong for letting my sister walk me down the aisle despite my fiancé and his family's objections? I, 23 female, was raised by my older half-sister, 32 female. I never met my dad and our mom OD'd when I was 10 and my sister was 19. My sister's dad was still in her life and was willing to support her, but not me. My sister chose to be my guardian and her father's family went low contact with her as a result. In order to raise me, she gave up a lot. Her relationship with her family, college, her 20s, and so much more. A few months ago, I got engaged and I told my sister that in addition to being my maid of honor, I also wanted her to be the one to walk me down the aisle. All my life, she's had to fulfill so many roles for me, big sister, mother, father, friend, that it only felt right that those multiple roles be honored on one of the biggest days of my life. My sister was ecstatic and so was I, but when I brought it up with my fiancé, he objected. My future in-laws are very traditional, and my fiancé had always expected that his wedding would be a very traditional white wedding. He said that it was great that my sister was my maid of honor, but that her having 2 roles wasn't, and that it wasn't appropriate for her to walk me down the aisle since that's usually done by a man. Says who? Says who? Apparently his family had assumed that my future father-in-law would be the one to give me away since I don't have any male relatives. I told him that I appreciate his father being willing to fill that role, but that the one who makes me the person I am is my sister, so it's right that she be the one to give me away. It turned into an argument that spread to my in-laws. My mother-in-law called me a few days ago to say although she understands how important my sister is to me, that it's also my fiancé's wedding and I shouldn't be putting my sister before him on his day. I definitely heard her on that, but this is still important to me. At this point, my sister has even said that she doesn't mind just being the maid of honor and that she doesn't want to turn my happy date into something stressful. So now it's just me holding out and being stubborn, but I really don't want to concede at this point. Am I being the asshole?
Am I the asshole for leaving my son's wedding after he denied his stepmom the mother-son dance?
Probably. Go on.
My son Jordan is 27. His stepmom, Natalie, came into his life when he was 16. His mom had passed away when he was 13, never really considered Natalie as his mom, and shut down every attempt to have a close relationship. He even moved in with his aunt months after Natalie and I got married. As years went by, they started reconciling and seeing each other more often. He invited us to his wedding, which took place days ago. We got there and the atmosphere was great, until later I found out that Jordan had denied Natalie a mother-son dance, instead chose his aunt to dance with him. Natalie told me this minutes later, and I couldn't help feel irritated and quite upset. I decided to get up and leave, and we both left. I got calls from my family after they saw me leave. Jordan called later, and I told him why I did it. He got mad and said it was his wedding and that his aunt was basically a mother to him, and that Natalie shouldn't expect special treatment. But it's not a special treatment, but a tradition. Besides, that he hurt her feelings for no reason other than for the sake of being malicious. He got offended and accused me of ruining his day and causing a scene. Now the family sided with him and said I shouldn't have left no matter what.
I have to tell you about this TikTok drama if you haven't heard about it, because I didn't know something like this could actually be drama. In fact, when it first graced my For You page, I was like, this is satire. Okay, I tried to post about this yesterday, but I'm such a boomer that I left my audio or the background sound on too long so no one could hear what I was saying. So I'll tell you again right now. Basically, there's this creator named Leanna. She pops up in my For You page, I guess like 2 days ago, and she's sobbing, she's bawling. She can't even speak, and she's got the blue check mark, and she's like, I didn't think I was gonna post this. So I'm like, post what? This chick is crying so hard that she can't even speak. Like, I'm thinking she's about to say her dog got eaten by a coyote or something fucked. She goes on to say that there's this couple called Matt and Abby that have a podcast. And on their podcast, they were talking about how people name their babies really outlandish things these days. I think more than that, they were talking about how people name their babies stuff that they don't grow into as adults. Specifically, and all the comments under Matt and Abby's podcast are just railing Leanna's baby's name because Leanna named her baby Cozy. Bawling, she's like, yeah, and under Matt and Abby's podcast, everybody was just railing Cozy's name. And you know what? We only named him Cozy because he was cozy in my stomach. And I just think if I had Matt and Abby's platform, I'd be a little more mindful. I'm like, mindful? I go over to Matt and Abby's podcast. I'm like, what did they say? Because I'm thinking these people with this really popular podcast are going, oh my God, speaking of baby names that don't grow well into adulthood, have you heard that Leanna named her baby Cozy? And then all the comments were like, yeah, what was that about? But I go and watch the clip and they don't mention her at all. They're just like, it's crazy. People are naming their babies things that like don't really translate well into adulthood. And people on their own in the comments are going, yeah, like Leanna, she named her baby fucking Cozy. She comes on here crying being like, I would just be more mindful if I was them. It's like, what? They can't have a conversation about baby names? It's not their fault that they brought up baby names that don't grow well into adulthood and then their fans made the connection because you named your baby Cozy. I don't know. Maybe Cozy's gonna grow up and be an alpha. I actually think that's poetic, you know, like a fighter named Cozy, like a fish called Wanda. No one's shitting on your baby. I don't even know your baby and I love your baby. But what I will say is if you have a following on the internet and you choose to disclose information to your many fans, the whole video she's saying, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Okay, then you just have to fucking stand by the name because you fucking love it. You have to know that people might make fun of it. Like Gwyneth Paltrow stood by naming her daughter Apple. Michael Jackson got fucking panned for naming his son Blanket. You can't come on here crying thinking it's bullying. It's not bullying. You're not in church, babe. This is the internet. I just really hate, this is about me now, where there's some sort of pretend moral ground where like having an opinion is bullying and you shouldn't say anything mean. Like, no, you're allowed to have an opinion. If you name your baby Cozy, people are allowed to be like, that's a weird name. It's not bullying. Like, it's commentary. It's what's happening now. You're a public figure. It's chit chat. It's all content, commentary, and chit chat until it's happening to you, right? You know what I mean? Not to get really off course here, but like how people are just like down to watch anybody's experience with Hailey Bieber and be like, oh, that was her experience with Hailey Bieber. Like, Hailey Bieber's friends could be like, that's bullying. We're talking about meeting Hailey Bieber and it not being a pleasant experience. Like, no, it's just my fucking opinion and I'm allowed to say it because we're on the internet. For the record, I like that name more than a lot of normal names. Like, you know, like Sean, for example. No shade to all the Seans. It's just like, I'm a bartender. I've been dealing with drunk people for years and I was thinking about it tonight and I'm like, what's my least favorite kind of drunk person? You know, you got like rowdy frat boy drunk and then you have like sleepy kind of emotional drunk or like crying drunk, straight up angry drunks or like drunk men who want your number and when you don't give it to them, they're like, fuck you. Anyway, it turns out this guy in the 16th century came up with 8 types of being drunk. List them for you now and you can tell me which one your least favorite is. And then I'll tell you what my least favorite is, okay? This is Thomas Nash's 8 types of drunk. First is ape drunk. This is someone that's like rowdy and just wants to like live it up. They want to get lit. They want to have a party, and they're actually maybe a little fun. But they're the type to like accidentally like break your coffee table, you know, like trip and just fucking face plant into your coffee table. All in all, okay to have around. Number 2 is lion drunk. Lion drunk is the angry drunk. They're the ones that like punch holes in the drywall when they're angry and like start screaming at their girlfriends on the phone or boyfriends. These are the vodka Red Bull drinkers, you know, or men on whiskey. They're lion drunk. Number 3 is swine drunk, which in the modern age has been replaced with wine drunk, which is kind of like slow and a little bit weepy and cries a little bit. And they're just kind of like slurring, you know, that heavy wine drunk, which I fucking hate talking. 4 is sheep drunk. That just means you get drunk and silent, which honestly I could deal with. Number 5 is called maudlin drunk. Don't know what maudlin means. Maudlin. This is someone who is a happy drunk, but overly emotional about how happy they are. They're just like, these are the, I just love you so much and your friendship is so important to me type drunk. 6 is martini drunk. I don't think this exists anymore because apparently this is someone who drinks themselves sober. And I've never met anybody like that. Number 7 is goat drunk. These are drunks that just want to fuck. Their mind is just on getting laid and they're all over it. And these are the kinds of guys that are just like staring at you all night and you have to give them a fake number. And even when you say you have a boyfriend or a fiance, they're like, well, I don't see him here. Last one I kind of like, it's fox drunk. The reason they're called fox drunks is because they're sly like a fox. Like these are your Irish exiters. Or, you know, so, you know, when you get home and you wake up and you bought like an extension cord or something weird like that and like it's in your fridge, like you did some sneaky stuff, wake up and your socks are like folded. You know what I mean? You know when you do something weird like that when you're drunk? This is my favorite kind actually. I'm gonna have to say my least favorite might just be swine/wine drunk because one thing I really can't handle is crying drunks that just fucking corner you for the entire night and want to talk to you about everything and repeat themselves. That's my least favorite quality. Like they're telling you a story and then they just go, and it was so weird because this, and you're like, yeah. And then they're like, and so anyway, it's so weird because this, and you're like, yeah. You don't want to be rude for some reason to this waste case. So you just like listen to their story multiple times, but in your head, you're like, oh my God, am I going to be stuck here all night? It just slows down the whole night. Like if you have a buzz on, that's killing it. It's also a reason that I don't hang out with people that do. So if you don't do, and you get cornered with one of them, talk my fucking ear off. Repeat yourself. Think you sound smart, but sound fucking insane. And let me tell you, nothing makes me want to leave someone's presence more.